So here we are at the Mike and Wyatt Show again. I'm sure that everybody has just been dying to find out how did we get together and all that. We work for a living at a
prestigious university.
Oh, very much so. Somewhere in the
Himalayas, isn't it?
Well, we're not supposed to say.
Well, I take that back then.
Yeah, so we're definitely not in the Himalayas, and I can guarantee you too, we're not in like
Botswana.
Yeah, Botswana. Okay, one of the things that we do is ship and receive goods for this prestigious. Very, very prestigious university. Wyatt, you got a story to tell about a particular event, the shipping and receiving of stuff.
At the prestigious university.
Yeah.
Well, this is surrounding 3 casts of characters, actually 4, if you count myself.
Well, I was in it on too because I filled in for you during some of that time. But anyway.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. I'll just drink some coffee then.
Well, first of all, let me name the characters. The characters in it are a buyer, a supervisor 1, and a supervisor 2.
Yep.
Just so that we have,
Yep.
some cast of characters. So, supervisor 1 comes to me and he says, "Look, I want you to ship this box out." And it's some equipment.
It's a piece of equipment. Large
piece of equipment.
Just not going out UPS.
And I want you to ship this out. And I want you to ship it to this guy in Oregon.
Now, everybody knows the guy in Oregon.
Everybody should know the guy in Oregon, but I didn't know the guy in Oregon. So I said, "Okay, so do you have an address?" He says, "Well, the buyer has the address, but I just want you to ship it to this guy in Oregon." And I said, "Okay, fine."
Not a problem. We can do that.
So I called the buyer up and I said, "Look, do you have some information with the address for this guy in Oregon I'm supposed to ship this piece of equipment to?" The buyer doesn't
have
the information that I need to send it to this guy in Oregon. So she hands me this large packet of paperwork and said, "Well, his address is in there somewhere."
The guy in Oregon?
The guy in Oregon.
Okay.
So I go, "Okay, fine." So I go looking through the paperwork, and I'm looking, and I don't find a guy in Oregon, but I do find a phone number. So I call the phone number.
And where'd that happen to take you, that phone number?
That phone number ended me up in Georgia.
Like Georgia, U.S., or is it Georgia, the country itself?
No, it's Georgia, U.S.
Okay.
Down south.
Okay.
And so it has to be shipped to Georgia.
Gotta go to Georgia. Not Oregon.
On a midnight train.
Well, they do have a couple of letters that are the same. If you move them around a little bit, you might be able to spell Oregon out of Georgia. For those listening, go ahead and try it.
I have a phone number to Georgia, but no phone number to a guy in Oregon. So now I have to go back to the buyer and I tell the buyer, "Look, I can't find the information or a phone number or an address to this guy in Oregon.
Not even an email address.
So you take this paperwork and you look through it and you give me the address, and wherever you tell me to send this, I will send it." Now I don't hear any more about it.
So he goes like on vacation for a week. A supervisor 2, I think it is, shows up, asks me when this is going to go out, and I say, "I don't know nothing. You're going to have to wait until Wyatt gets back."
I come back. This thing is still sitting there.
He looks at me like it's my fault.
And I go, "You didn't send this to the guy in Oregon?" And Mike looks at me and says, "I don't know what address to send it to." This supervisor 2 comes back and says, "Hey, is there anything I can do for you?" And I said, "Yeah, you can get this."
I'm the guy in Oregon.
"Yeah, you can give me this address to this guy in Oregon so I can send this stupid box to." And he goes, "You mean that's still sitting here?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm supposed to send it to some guy in Oregon, but I don't know what his address is." He goes back, gets a hold of the buyer and says, "Well, you told us this went out to the guy in Oregon." And they say, "I thought it was gone." And so now a month has transpired. The box is still here, and the guy in Oregon is waiting for it somewhere. I don't know. I just hope he wasn't depending on it as
for his income, because it wasn't happening.
The supervisor 1 calls me up and says, "Hey, I thought you sent that box out. You didn't send me an address." "Well, I don't have the address. The buyer has the address." I said, "The buyer doesn't have the address. And the only phone number I found was to the guy down in Georgia.
The company in Georgia, not a guy.
Well, the company in Georgia, yeah,
Yeah.
because it was actually a girl that
Answered the
that
phone.
answered the phone. So anyway, with her southern drawl.
Yeah.
So
and I'll buy
anyway,
it.
so now I'm still sitting on this box. I don't have a phone number to the guy in Oregon. I don't have an address to the guy in Oregon. I said, I can't just slap a label on your box that says a guy in Oregon and ship it off to him. It doesn't work that way. I need an address. So now here I am sitting on this box. This guy's upset because he thought it had gone out a month ago.
He was actually upset because it hadn't returned yet.
The buyer calls me back about a day later and says, hey, why don't you just ship it to Georgia?
Now, are you shipping it to a gal in Georgia this time? Rather
Yeah, I
than-
think it's a gal in Georgia and not the guy in Oregon.
Right, okay.
I call up the gal in Georgia. I get her address. I put the tag on, and the box goes out that day. It was that simple.
And actually, it arrived back in, what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks.
Yeah. Round trip.
Well, then it arrived back and it didn't work, so they had to send it back again.
Right. But at least we had the right place to send it to.
Well,
this
yeah,
time.
we were
And
sending it to
could
the
do
gal
like
in
that,
Georgia.
you know.
Yeah, the gal in Georgia instead of the guy in Oregon. I never did find out about the guy in Oregon. Maybe he died or something. I don't know.
Well, maybe he moved. Maybe
He
he's
could.
in Connecticut now.
Anyway, that's my story.
Pleasure being with you. And hey, look, it is time for me to go to work again. This is the Mike and Y Show. Enjoy.